All right, welcome back to the Fuse Show, everybody. My name is Bud. I am an account executive here at xfusion.io and co-host of the Fuse Show. I'm excited to be joined today by my guest, Matthew Wren. Matt is the co-founder and president and chief technology officer of BUNDLAR, an augmented reality solutions company serving individuals, businesses, and institutions. He has been a VR enthusiast for over 20 years, professionally developing VR and AR applications since 2016. Matt regularly speaks about immersive technology at events, providing thought leadership on content, strategy, innovation, and the business benefits of virtual and augmented reality. Hey, thanks for being on the show, Matt. It's a pleasure to have you, buddy.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. So you have quite a background that spans all kinds of stuff, including VR, AR, immersive technology. So let's go ahead and get into that part of it. We'll get into the rest of it later. So tell us about BUNDLAR, what it is, what you do, and then we'll get into augmented reality versus immersive reality versus all that other stuff.
And the enigma of what is the metaverse.
We'll get into that as well, because that I'm lost.
That's
when
a
it comes
big
to
topic today. Okay, so BUNDLAR is it's a company. So BUNDLAR is an augmented reality content management platform. What that means in layman's terms is we make augmented reality very easy for anybody to create. And the challenge I always tell people is like, you said yourself when we were talking earlier, you're not a technical person. I can teach you how to publish augmented reality in about 5 minutes using our platform. So that's what BUNDLAR is.
That would be rad.
I'll show you. And like I said, what I'll do is I'll do a screen share and I'll show you myself creating it. You watch what I do. And if you couldn't do that yourself, you'd be like, oh no, this makes sense. I get it. And I was actually, so just recently we were at Augmented World Expo in Santa Clara, and I took about 40 people live in our booth on a trade show floor where there's, of course, lovely internet connectivity. And I personally brought about 40 people through an experience where they each themselves created augmented reality in about 5 minutes. And so that's what the platform allows. It makes it very easy for anybody to create augmented reality. And what's cool about that is augmented reality is a very, very powerful communications medium. At the end of the day, it's another channel of communication. And the problem with it at the moment is that it's very hard to create. And it's very difficult for companies to understand how to get the value out of it. But the second you put the ability to create augmented reality into everybody's hands, all of a sudden they find the ways to get value out of it very quickly, and they jump into using it, and it essentially accelerates through an organization the moment somebody starts to actually say, oh, hey, I get it now. I know how to do it. And that's what BUNDLAR allows. It's a platform, at the end of the day, it's a very easy to use web content system, but behind that web content system is actually a very powerful patented web content management system. So aside from the fact that it's very easy to use, it's secure, it's scalable, it's powerful. And that's why we're supporting, large enterprises like Microsoft in the military, even though this is just a really easy to use tool.
Nice. So how do you, you say you can teach somebody that's not technical, like me, to do this in 5 minutes.
Yep.
This is a no-code technology. When it gets to me, I'm guessing that there's a lot of code that goes into it on your end.
There's a ton of code that goes into it on our end.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you get from that point to making it so easy that even the people side, like my side, can do it in 5 minutes?
Well, I mean, it's the initial sort of iterations of the company, how the company kind of got started and where it worked from is the platform was really at first solving my own problem. I started building augmented reality myself and, other team members at BUNDLAR even. We were building augmented reality for customers, and it was all very custom development, bespoke, one-off, build a solution for a company. It was very time-consuming, very expensive. And the interesting part of it is as we were going through, building custom solutions for customers, there's this kind of point where you're modifying the content, the thing that you're going to actually see in augmented reality. And, there's little sort of 3D modeling and tweaky stuff that you're going to do there. That's a pretty quick change. But then it takes an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours to get through this sort of build cycle, to get through all the different layers of engineering you have to get it from here's the content to now it's actually working on a device. And so the first iteration of the system was really, okay, how do I automate that really 3 hour block in the middle out? How do I get rid of that? How do I make it so that I can just get through that process? So it was originally sort of meant to be kind of a developer tool, but we didn't want it to be limited to only being able to do certain things. And then once we got that working really well, it's like, okay, well, cool. Now our developers, now the BUNDLAR team, we can develop augmented reality really, really quickly. And so we were doing that. We were actually using it as a platform for our customers, so that we could basically build something in a matter of a day, whereas a lot of development companies would take a week to a month to build something. And the problem there was, of course, you still needed us to build it. And what happened at that point, which is like we had this platform and we released it, and we were supporting some customers, and then all of a sudden the pandemic comes down and says, nope, you can't show this to people anymore. Because we were going to a lot of live events and we were showing people how quickly we can publish stuff. And so what happened is, as soon as the pandemic hit, we had kind of planned already that we were going to make it a tool so that anybody could create, but we're like, oh, well, we'll get to that. That'll be something a little bit further down the road. But then as soon as the pandemic came down, we just sort of looked at it and said, well, let's move that up the timeline a little bit. So we spent, I'd say, 8 or 9 months initially, completely rewriting the web interface for the whole front end to make it, instead of being a developer tool, to being more of a anybody can, drag and drop, no code, anybody can do this tool. We hired a great UX designer. He redesigned our whole interface, and then we had some great front end programmers who reprogrammed the whole thing. And so now, almost, December 20. I want to say March 2020 is when the pandemic really kind of shut things down. By October 2020, we sort of started releasing it out and showing other people, hey, we've got this web interface. Could you create augmented reality here? And we were showing it not to developers. We were showing it to people who were like, graphics people and content creators and instructional designers, people who are definitely not coders. But they're people who are used to creating content, especially educational and training content. And we were, taking a lot of feedback from them and making tweaks to the interface. And so by December of 2020, we actually went public with the interface and said, okay, now we're publishing the first iteration of this. This is the BUNDLAR CMS. And you no longer need to even be a technical person to use it. Now, as long as you know effectively, as I say, if you can create a PowerPoint slide, you can create augmented reality. And that's pretty much, that was kind of the, obviously there are different levels of people in terms of creating PowerPoint slides. I'm personally not a designer. Sure. I'm terrible at creating PowerPoints, but I understand how to do it, and therefore I know how to publish augmented reality as well. Cool.
Well, you said that you could do a screen share and show me how. So if you want to see, you're willing to do that, I want to see it. It sounds really cool. Absolutely. So let me share my screen really quickly, and let me know when you're seeing it, and then I'm going to have to navigate away here, so I can't see you anymore. But do you see the BUNDLAR dashboard at the moment? I do. All right. So this is the CMS, and I'm already logged into it. This is our demo account. So there's a lot of augmented reality bundles in here. So really quickly, actually, before I get into this, I'll a few terms. So augmented reality, the simple definition of augmented reality is you're taking digital information or data and you're placing it within the context of physical space. So when you take kind of those pieces, you need a few things. You need the data, you need something digital, some sort of digital information. Most people always think 3D, but it can be any data. It can be 3D models, it can be video, it can be audio, it can be images, pretty much anything, text. And so that's the data, but then you need something in the physical world to either trigger it or anchor it or both. So you're going to tie it to the physical world somehow. And that thing in the physical world, it could be an image or an object that the camera of your device, whatever you're viewing this through, is recognizing, or it could be just your floor, or, it could be your location. There's all sorts of things that can trigger or anchor the augmented reality as well. But when you combine those two things, the data and a trigger, you get what's called one augmented reality experience. That's the word that we use. And what we found with a lot of, kind of our iterations through things is one experience isn't enough, especially when you're doing educational information. You ultimately need to put lots of augmented reality experiences together. The sort of the parallel I'll explain to this is kind of like a web page versus a website. You can't always get everything you need out of a web page. Sometimes you need a whole site.
And people won't necessarily visit every page on the site, but they'll definitely be able to jump around back and forth to get to what they need. So that's sort of the parallel to what a bundle is. And that's why it's such a different way of thinking of augmented reality. We named the company after it. That's why it's Bundle AR, because we bundle augmented reality experiences together. So with all that explanation, I'm going to spend 5 minutes right now creating augmented reality. So I'm going to create a new augmented reality bundle, and I'll call this Demo Bud. And right now I just created a bundle and it's empty. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create an augmented reality experience, and I'll start by creating an image marker one. And what I'll do is I will add a video and an interactive button to an augmented reality experience. So it's asking me to browse my file for what's the trigger, what's the image marker. So I'm going to go and I'm going to upload this image. And this is just a JPEG image, a regular computer graphics image from my computer. And it's now taking me into the 3D environment, and that image that I uploaded is placed here in the center of it. And so there we go. I've got a little 3D environment here, and I'm just using my mouse to kind of drag it around. And what I want to do is I want to add a video to this. So I'm going to edit this experience, and I'm going to add a video. And I'm going to, my media library on the right is going to load in a second. But for right now, I'm just going to upload one from my computer because it'll be faster.
Okay.
And so I've selected an MP4 video, again, a regular video file, and you can see that it just appeared there, and it's now standing up in the center of that image marker. And if I want to select it and preview it, now I'll be clear, I know that sometimes when I'm doing video sharing, this doesn't work as well, and it doesn't seem to be working great right now. There we go, it's selecting. Let's see if I can play it and preview the video.
Until now, creating augmented reality is hard.
And I don't know if
IT
you're
departments
hearing it,
simply do not.
I am.
Okay. But what I want to do is I don't want it to stand up like that. I want it to lay flat. So I'm going to hit my little rotate tool over here on the left, and I'm going to roll it back.
Oh.
And I want to get exactly perfect. So I'm actually going to go over here and I'm going to do it, by numbers and say, well, I know 90 degrees is flat. So I'm just going to say, instead of going 86, I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to go perfect 90. So it's going to lay perfectly flat. And now I don't want it to stand up above the image like that. So I'm going to grab my position tool, and I'm just going to drag it down right to the center of that image, and I'm going to hit my scale tool here, and I'm going to scale it so that it's almost perfectly covering the edges of the image there. It's like I got to move it down a little bit more. But there we go. So I just added a video to an image. And that's something, again, a few years ago that would have taken even somebody like me who's a full stack programmer, that would have taken a day to do. I just did it in a matter of a couple minutes here. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to add another digital asset here. I'm going to add a button. Buttons are powerful. A button can be any image or any 3D model, and I can do all sorts of cool things with it. I can navigate from augmented reality experience to other augmented reality experience, or I can toggle visibility layers like Photoshop, visibility layers.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, what I want to do is I just want to have it take me to a website. I'm going to have it take me to bundlar.com. And I'll press continue, and I'm going to browse my computer for the button I want, and upload it. And I could use one of my defaults too, but there you can see the button. And what I want to do now is I want to move it so that it's below the video. And that's my first augmented reality experience created. And now this is where we're going to go back to the bundling. So now I'm going to go back, and you can see that I now have this one augmented reality experience in there. I'm going to create a second one. And this one, I'm not going to use an image marker. I'm just going to create something that I can just project in my room on my floor. And so you can see there's no image marker, but there's that little reticle, and you'll see what that does in a moment when I show you through the phone. But I'm going to edit this experience, and this time I'm going to add something 3D. And what I want to add is I want to add a 3D model. And I'm again going to browse my computer for it. And this one is a little bit more practical of a use case. This is something that we actually delivered for a gas company, a natural gas company. And what we were doing is we were showing instructions on how to, essentially how to service and install and uninstall one of these things. But the first thing we did I'm not going to create that entire training experience here, but what I'll do is I'll create the first step of it, which was to label the parts of the gas meter. And so you can see I press edit and add a new asset, and I'm adding what's called a label. And a label is it's one of those things that ended up being a really powerful tool. It was one of the things that we didn't really expect. I'm noticing that the screen sharing is delaying some stuff.
That's all
There
right.
we go.
We're still getting a real good idea of what's going on. So
That's okay. So a label is just a way to label something in 3D space. It's a way to add text to 3D space. So what I'm doing right now is I'm labeling intake valve. And I'm going to say, okay, well, an intake valve is how gas gets into the meter. And you can kind of see the preview of what it's going to look like down here at the bottom.
Mhm.
And again, I'll show you this on device and it'll make more sense. But I want to change the colors. I want to make it, this is gas, so it's dangerous. So we're going to go red. And we'll make the text white so it's a little easier to see. And that's good there. But what I want to do is I do want to make sure that it's right on top of that intake valve. So I'm going to move the environment around and I'm just going to say, get it right where I want it, right on the intake valve there. And so it's there. Cool. I'm going to add one more, just again to show how easy this is. And I'm going to add, this time, the exit valve. Actually, again, my clicking is going a little slow. Screen sharing does this sometimes, I've noticed, just because browsers like to use a lot of memory. All right, so that's a new label, and this is an outflow valve. And I won't add much to it. I'll just say call it an outflow valve. Oops. But the point being, you get, is there anything I'm doing here that you don't think you could do?
no, I could do that actually fairly easy.
Okay. I'm just using a mouse. I'm actually using my touchpad. I like to use a mouse because it's a little easier to control, but didn't have one on me here today. So I'll just use a touchpad. It still works. And I'm going to press save. I should add some detail there. Oh, gaskets out of the meter. All right. And again, I'll show you the front view. Press save. I've saved that augmented reality experience. And now I'm going to go back to my bundle. Okay, so I've just created a single augmented reality bundle that has two augmented reality experiences, one of them being an image marker, so something that the camera's going to recognize, and the other one being a planar, which is basically, it's called world space planar, lots of different words for basically I'm just going to make a thing appear in my space. And when I do that, I now want to publish it. And this is where the hard part comes in. And what's today? Today's 11/20 something, right? 22nd?
11/23.
23. So I'm just giving it a unique code right now. And I'm going to save the code. And now I'm going to go to this publish area and I'm just going to press build preview. And what it's going to do now is it's going up to our cloud system. And this is where the heavy lifting, this is where what you just saw me create on the web is going to actually go up to our cloud and get built so that it can display on a device. And it'll take about, I'll say 90 seconds to 2 minutes on this one. And then it'll be done, and then I can just press this publish button. So this is another thing, again, how I said our system is very, very easy to use, but behind it, it's actually a full-scale enterprise content management system. So this difference between preview and public is actually a built-in quality assurance. So preview means I can view it on device, but it's not, and nobody else can. Only the people that I specifically invite to do quality assurance testing on it can do that. So we have things like version control and preview and QA and capabilities. That's all built into the system. But at the end of the day, it's still very, very easy to use. Right. So while that is building, I'll stop sharing and come back over to here where I can see you. And let me see if my other screen share is working and I can actually show you this working on device. I'm going to make sure I have it on device and then I'm on the internet on this device because I'm not always on the internet on this device. So I can show a couple different bundles here really quickly. But ultimately, like I said, that's the content management system. That is how hard it is to create augmented reality using our system. It's not hard. There's no coding involved. It's drag and drop. It's real simple. But if I screen share now, and I share, I guess I got to share my entire screen. So you're going to see yourself for a second here.
That's scary.
Yeah. And there it goes. But what I wanted to show you, so what I'm showing you right now, and I don't know if the camera shows as well as my screen share, but this is a live shot of my mobile device. And are you able to see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to load the BUNDLAR app, and I'm going to go and, the code, you saw how I entered that code before I published your bundle. That's where I would enter the code here. it automatically creates a QR code, which I could just press this QR code scanner and scan one if I had one in front of me. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a saved bundle I have, and this is one that we did for Microsoft. And what it is it's so this is an actual live use case. It's a live support use case that we did for Microsoft Xbox. And I'm going to press that little snowflake symbol, and it's going to say, okay, detect the floor, basically. So you see that little reticle now that's appearing on the camera? Very similar to the one that I had in the creation environment. What I'm launching now is I'm placing on my floor that 3D Xbox controller. And you can see it's 3D. I can go all around it. It'll stay there. And you see those 6 buttons around it?
I do.
Those are actually the most common reasons that people call Microsoft support for this device, which is an Elite controller. And if I press any one of them, like a controller update there, what it's going to do is it's going to take me to this full screen experience that is how to actually do a controller update. So you can see that there's a video playing. I've got the audio muted so it doesn't blow me away. But there's the actual video that's showing you how to do it. There's these text instructions that I'm scrolling right now. And I could also press that download step-by-step guide, and that would allow me to download a PDF of the same thing. And if I go back out of this experience, you'll see that the controller's still sitting there, and I could go do another support case.
Nice.
So the ability to create that is really no different than what I just showed you with that gas meter. In the gas meter, I put a gas meter in my space, and I labeled the parts. But here, it's an Xbox controller, and I've put 6 buttons around it that are how to do support on the Xbox controller. So I'll end the demo there. I can show more stuff, and I'll stop screen sharing so you don't video feedback yourselves. But that's it. That's how hard it is and how easy it is to create this stuff. And that other bundle just finished, and I'm publishing it right now. So maybe I'll jump back into it in a few minutes.
Nice.
But that's it. That's how hard it is to create.
And that's what your clients can do. Like, you don't have to create that for them. They can just get on and do that themselves.
Correct. Yeah, so our
That's
platform
amazing.
is there for them to use it. Most of our clients start us. They start out with us building something for them. So we kind of do this pilot program where, we meet with them and we give them advice on how to use AR. We listen to them come to us with use cases. And the first time we tend to build it with them looking over our shoulders, kind of like you just did here. Mm-hmm. And then the second time, we sort of expect that they're going to build it with us looking over their shoulder, be able to provide support. By the third time, they're just doing it themselves, and they're calling us when they need help, but they don't need that much help usually.
Yeah, I mean, that's very easy. I think, a couple times I could do something like that myself, and that's saying something, because, I mean, you ask my bosses, and they're like, yeah, he's not technical.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's amazing. That's very easy. So, I mean, good job. That's awesome. Cool. There's so many different use cases that you could have for that. I would think that they just keep coming up and coming up. Like,
being in the space, having been somebody who, I've been working in augmented reality now for several years. So I've obviously, gone down those rabbit holes of what are some of the coolest things you could do with this. And the one thing I like to say a lot, which is really sort of fun, is what excites me the most about this is when somebody comes at me with a use case that I didn't even consider. So one of our customers is the U.S. Space Force. And what we're doing, the augmented reality that we're producing for them, and this one is cool because with the military, you always got to be careful what you talk about. But this one I'm allowed to share. So what we're doing is we're producing training. We did this as a pilot. We were producing training for the pararescuemen that jump out of a C-130 into the ocean and rescue the astronauts from a capsule that has landed in the ocean.
Wow.
And we're creating training for them. Because if you think about what they're doing, so pararescuemen, these guys are soldiers. It's not like their day-to-day job of, I'm just going to go jump in and get a space capsule. It's not something that happens every day. This is a very specific use case that they have to train for. And there's equipment that they use that they never see in any other circumstance. And, that said, as much as they try to control where the capsule is going to land, it could land anywhere in the world. And they have to have basically they could be given 24 hours notice. You're just going to go do this. Get on a plane. You're going. The people who are trained to actually do these procedures. And so we created training for them to, do familiarization. So think about the Xbox controller there, because I can't actually show you this training, unfortunately. But there's tools that they use where we're doing buttons that actually have screen overlays that are like a walkthrough of how to use the tool, how to set it up, how to configure it, how to operate it. And same thing with the actual space capsule itself. Here are the parts. There's the door. How do you open the door? Where are the jets? Because you don't obviously want to, or the rockets. You don't want to reach your hand under where a rocket was. So there's all this familiarization training that we do. Now, if you had asked me, what are people going to use augmented reality for a year and a half ago? Training pararescuemen to approach a space capsule that had landed in the ocean is not one of the things I would have come up with.
Right.
And yet, April of this year, we created that and we deployed it. And now we've actually just submitted a contract to extend that training because, they were blown away by it. They're like, oh my God, this is great. And in addition to the fact that the training is really powerful, because when people see stuff in 3D, when they understand, like we took a 150-page PowerPoint and boiled it down to 4 augmented reality experiences. And it's interactive and the people learn better by using it. So it's really kind of neat how powerful this is as a communication medium. And then take that one step further and show the people who are doing the training that you don't even need us to create this. You guys can create it. Granted, we did create that one for them. They asked us to do it because it was the first time.
Sure.
But when I was demonstrating it to them a month later, I had, one of their guys who trains flight medics, and he looked at this and he actually brings me over to his desk and he's got a 2-screen computer where he's creating the PowerPoint training. He's like, you're telling me right now I could have your system on this screen and the PowerPoint here, and I could just be dragging this stuff and creating it. And I'm like, yes. And he's like, how long would it take you to create an account? I said, 5 minutes. How long would it take you to get the authorization? And he's like, that's a whole other story.
More than 5 minutes.
A little bit longer. But we did submit a contract, so we'll see where it goes. It's a really powerful tool, and it's a really cool thing that I had not come up with. I had not thought of that. I did not think of Microsoft doing customer support for Xbox. Like, that's not something that I thought of in the use cases. I knew equipment training. Like, I knew that you could do, how to do a procedure or how to troubleshoot something or how to do a maintenance procedure. Like, all that sort of stuff I'd thought of, but the exact specific use case of a customer self-supporting, an Xbox controller. I mean, I've had that frustration myself of trying to connect the controller to my computer. I'm like, I don't want to call support. Nobody wants to call support. Nobody ever wants to call tech support. And so you always, it's better for you if you can self-support on an issue like that. And it's also better for them because, call center support is one of their biggest expenses when it comes to support. So if you can reduce that, and that's actually, that's why we're doing a lot of work with them, is because we demonstrated that by doing this, you significantly reduce the number of call centers, the calls. So it's powerful.
That is powerful. So I kind of want to go back to what you were saying about the way that this is going to change the way that people communicate. And you gave kind of a little bit of a taste of that with how you said, this went from 150-page PowerPoint to, like a 4-page, 4 augmented reality slides, right? Is that just the tip of the iceberg on how you expect this to change the way that people communicate? I want you to kind of get into that a little bit more. Like, how do you expect this to change the way that people communicate? There is that, the way that people learn and the way that they interact with this technology. But how do you expect this to really change the way that people communicate with each other?
Sure. Well, and I mean, when you're getting into that, you start talking more about virtual reality, augmented reality together. Like this technology, those two stacks, more so augmented reality now, because I think that's going to be the really powerful use case, because thankfully everybody has an augmented reality device in their pocket. Not everybody has virtual reality devices right now. Although I have several, but that's just, not everybody has them. So I think the scaling factor is augmented reality is going to be very powerful and useful, more so as an actual tool than virtual reality, at least immediate future. But I think they both, that line's going to blur a little bit over time. But as humans, we live and exist in 3-dimensional space, and we interact with our space and we learn from it. And, we're animals. We're wired to react to our physical presence. And so even though augmented reality through a mobile device, okay, I'm still holding up a mobile device, I'm still looking through a screen, but just seeing things in my physical presence, your brain gets tricked and you react to it and you absorb that information differently. And you'll see this, if you ever really want to see a good example of this, put augmented reality on a mobile device in the hand of a kid, like a young, 5 to 10-year-old kid. They don't even recognize that there's a difference between the digital stuff that they're seeing and the physical world. They've never existed in a world that didn't have it, so they don't see separation like we do. I grew up without cell phones. I mean, it's
Me too. Yeah.
And so we see the separation more than younger people do. Really kids do, and even millennial and below, they don't really have an adult presence without smartphones. So they're used to living on this device that's kind of an appendage of them, and so they just naturally interact with it differently than I do, because again, I grew up without them. And so you start to take away, start to think and take away some of those barriers about how people react differently to digital information because they never grew up and had access to it when they started with it. It was always just there. It's just a part of their presence. And then you start to think about, again, virtual reality. So it's like, okay, well, now you can surround yourself with an environment that you're just interacting with. And it's not really all that different from physical presence. Obviously, I'm not, physically grabbing objects and picking them up, although it seems like I'm physically grabbing objects and picking them up. And if you go to some of the expos I do, you get to try something like haptic devices where you can actually physically feel digital things. Cool tech, right? I'm really
super cool tech.
So it's you start to think through where this is going to go in terms of technology, and it's a very powerful communication medium because, again, at the end of the day, humans are animals, and it is our natural instinct to react to the things that are in our physical environment. We have a different response than we do looking at something on a page or looking at something on a screen. And even though you're looking, like I said, with augmented reality, you're looking through a screen, but your brain still gets tricked. And if you ever want to see another good example of this, watch somebody who's afraid of heights do one of the VR experiences where they're standing up on a tower. And they know they're on a floor. They know they're not up at height, but they will react. Their body will instinctively take over and react as if they are at height. Your brain tricks you really, really quickly. And it's that which is what makes the technology a very powerful medium of communication. We have been dealing with, for the last 20, 30 years, information coming through computers. And so we're kind of used to digital information now, but now with augmented reality, you have the ability to take that information and it has physical presence. And you can use the physical presence to drive information that you need when you need it, where you need it, as you need it. All of a sudden, that's kind of where the power comes into play. You're taking away a lot of those separations of, okay, well, I have this thing I want to look up. Now I have to go to a computer or go to my mobile device and go to Google and search for it and find what I'm looking for and go to that web page. Versus I can literally just point at the thing that I need help with, and the help is there in context right when I need it. That's where the power comes in.
Yeah, I got you. That makes sense. So, what you're explaining there, especially with like the VR headset, and everything that you're explaining kind of wraps around to what I would think is immersive technology, or instead of like AR, it all kind of, to me, seems like immersive technology. Is that also immersive technology? Do they kind of coincide together? Like AR, immersive technology, is it all kind of the same thing, or are they different?
So I use the term immersive technology to talk about AR, VR, MR. So there's what we like to call it, like those of us who work in the industry, we joke about the alphabet soup of the R's. So it's AR, VR,
okay.
MR, XR. People have different definitions. Augmented reality is augmented reality. You're taking digital information, you're adding it to physical space. Virtual reality is you're taking the person, you're putting them, you're occluding what they can see of the physical space, and you're actually placing them in a virtual environment. Mixed reality, well, Microsoft has the definition there of kind of like see-through augmented reality. So there's different definitions for it. And you can go down the whole level of alphabet soup of, okay, well, then what's XR? Well, XR is extended reality, which is, a combination of those two, basically. Immersive technology, I just refer to all of them, basically. Immersive technology is, it's augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, mixed reality. Any of those things I generally refer to as immersive technology. I don't think there's a hard and fast definition, because what you're dealing with is you're immersing the person in one way, shape, or another in the data that they're interacting with. Whether it's placing the data in their physical presence or placing them in a virtual environment, either way, it's immersive. I've also seen, I don't know if you've ever seen some of the projection mapping tools where people are actually, they have a projection that's on a wall, and you're using like a Microsoft Connect technology, and I move and the thing on the wall reacts, the video reacts. You can almost argue, you haven't seen those?
No, I haven't. That sounds super cool though.
Like they have those displays at trade shows, and they've had them. I've seen them at like Disney. I think has a couple of them around this place. But it's like you'll see like a projection of like a snow on a floor, and as you walk through it, it's recognizing you walk through it, and the snow blows away.
That's awesome.
And so that's that too. I wouldn't really call that AR or VR, but that's definitely immersive technology as well. And that's the term I use for that is more projection mapping, where it's mapping a projection to a space and allowing people to interact with the projection.
Okay, so with Bundle AR, are you working in all of those areas yet, or are you working on all of those areas?
Bundle AR is specifically augmented reality.
Okay.
And we deploy right now. We publish to mobile devices. So there's a lot of things that make Bundle AR different from other companies that are augmented reality or that are doing no-code platforms, I would say. Because there's a couple different platforms out there. First, we focus very heavily on B2B. We focus on functional use cases. So we're trying to do things like in the training space or maintenance, as opposed to marketing, nothing wrong with marketing or advertising, but we tend to stay away from that space because there's other tools that are good for that, and there's easier ways to deliver it. We currently deliver specifically to mobile application versus things like WebXR, which is web is you don't need an app, you're just doing it on a browser. The reason we do that is because one of the most powerful things that our technology allows to my knowledge, nobody else does, is once you take Bundle AR content and you download it to the device, like I showed you earlier, it's on the device. I don't need internet anymore for it to work. It'll just work without internet. And that's a really powerful feature, but that only works if you do it on an app. You can't do that with web, obviously, because web, it has to be internet-based. And so that helps us because, like I said, when we're working with military customers, sometimes they're doing this in places that there is no internet, and they can't, or they're in a secure environment where you are not allowed to have internet. And so you still have to be able to show this stuff on a device, even though there's no internet capability. So that's one of the reasons we don't deploy to browsers yet. Now, we will eventually probably deploy to browsers. I won't put a timeline on that, but I'll say it might be something that's on our development roadmap. We don't currently display to the AR glasses like the HoloLens or the New Eyes or the Nreal. There's a whole lot of different augmented reality glasses that are coming out now. We don't currently publish to them yet, but mainly because we haven't had a customer ask for it. I said, one of the most powerful things for us is we want this to be a distributed technology. We want everyone to have access to it. And not a lot of people have those pieces of hardware yet, but everybody has one of these. So that's why we focus on the mobile. But I'm sure that'll come in the future. So that's on, being able to deploy to glasses is something that's on the future roadmap. Being able to publish to web is probably on our future as well. But I don't really see Bundle AR publishing VR in the future or doing like projection mapping.
Okay, cool. So from what I can gather, you guys are bootstrapped up to this point, correct?
We have angel funding, but we were bootstrapped.
You have angel funding now?
And now we actually have angel investments. We've raised, I'd say just under $3 million.
Well, good for you. But I mean, that's quite a road to bootstrap. Like that was quite a road to hoe.
Oh yeah.
What made you bootstrap up until now? Like, the reason I ask is because I've had a lot of people on this show, and when I ask them that question, they're like, no, if you have this type of technology, you have to have funding, to be able to get the underlying technology up and going. How did you do that bootstrapping, and why did you choose that route?
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a developer. I'm a technology guy. So for me, it's kind of funny because, obviously we have this company and we're really successful and things are growing right now. It's accelerating insanely fast. At the end of the day, I'm the tech guy. So for me, like the juice, the thing that I was chasing was, I knew this technology, like I knew we could build this platform. And so for me, it was build the platform. Like the goal was to build the tech and make this something that's available to people. You know, the business side of it's the business side of it, but I wanted the tech to be built. And so that was the driver for me. And eventually, when we first started getting investment is when we started to basically say, okay, we need staff beyond the core team because this is a really cool tool. And for us to start adding in the features we want to add in and really scaling this thing up, we got to add more people. But if we want to add more people, we got to get, we got to be able to pay people, frankly. And so that's when we made the decision to raise funding when we needed to start adding staff. And once we started, the first real kind of employee we hired was another developer. He was the guy who was building out that front end stuff for us. So like I said, it wasn't until we actually started saying, okay, we're going to take this from a developer tool to something that anybody can use. That's when we hired someone to do front end work and do design work for the front end. And that's ultimately like when we started, okay, well now we got to raise money because we're hiring people. And so, that said, we've talked to a lot of investors and, the investors, they look at our company and they look at what we've delivered and it's like, okay, we've raised $3 million, a significant money, a portion of that is still in the bank. We have runway on that money. And they look at us and they're like, okay, you guys didn't build an MVP with $3 million. You built an enterprise platform that is functioning and delivering to our customers, Microsoft. That's like they produce the HoloLens. Right. They know a few things about augmented reality, and they're our customer. So you guys can build a platform capable of supporting a company like Microsoft on $3 million, not an MVP. Like there's other companies that have raised $10 to $15 million, and they're not even at the MVP stage yet to build something like this. I won't say the other company I've talked to. There's a very large enterprise company I've talked to that basically told us that they spent several $1 million in 2 years trying to build something like what we built, and they couldn't do it. And now they're a partner, basically, because they're like, well, you guys built it, so we're going to partner with you, and we're going to see how we can work together. But we were, as one of our investors loves to call us, we were insanely capital efficient.
You had to be very lean.
What we were able to do, and we still have we have a relatively, up until this year, we just started hiring a lot of people because as we're ramping up now and getting a lot of customers in and getting people using the system, we need more salespeople, we need more support people versus just developers. And we're still ramping up a lot of developers and there's a lot more features we want to add. So we're ramping the team up, which is why we're raising right now because we want to be able to go, we know that our technology is ahead of a lot of people and we want to stay ahead. And so in order to do that, we got to build in a lot of the bells and whistles and features that other people, aren't really in yet. But that said, the core capability of what we built is based on a platform which we have a pending patent on. So it's going to be very hard for people to do some of the things that we do because, as we like to say, we've solved a couple of problems that other people don't even know they're going to face for a year or two. And when they realize that, okay, well, we have to rebuild our system to solve for this other problem, like the working offline thing, they're going to then come to the fact that the only way to do that is to use the system architecture that we have a patent on. So it'll be hard for them to catch up.
Nice. It's great. Good job.
The whole concept of bootstrapping before fundraising, I was like, it was a matter of just build it. And then when we had to start adding people, we decided, okay, well, we got to raise because, we could have made the choice at that point of, and again, it wasn't really a choice. It's like, do we go get a lot of customers to start paying? But ultimately the pandemic said, okay, well, our big way to sell this stuff, because the easiest way to sell augmented reality is you put it in somebody's hand. As soon as they see it, they're like, okay, I get it. And they start buying. And we got a good number of customers that way. We were working with companies like Procter & Gamble, Arizona State University, Redbox. There were some great
just
customers.
Small names.
Yeah. And these were some great customers that as soon as they saw the value of what we had, they're like, this is cool. We want to use it. And then the pandemic just changed everybody's business model all of a sudden. And it's like, okay, well, we're like, okay, well, we can't really get our funding from customers at this point because we can't get in front of the customers and everybody's just trying to figure out what's happening right now. So no one's spending a whole lot of money. So we'll go get funding and we'll build out the part of the platform that's going to make it really, really valuable, which is make this a tool for anybody. And that's what we did. And now we have that. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, we are quickly running out of time. We are. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even realize, huh?
That's a lot.
So we could probably go on for quite a while, but I will go ahead and ask you the final two questions that I ask everybody that are on this program, so we can get you out of here. What advice would you give to founders or soon-to-be founders that are going to be watching this program?
No,
I stumped you.
No. It's more how do I word this? Because the two things that are really terrible for a founder is, the one thing, analysis paralysis. If you're going to spend so much time researching that you never actually get started. And I would say, to those people, I would say, no, you're going to learn 1,000 times more and 1,000 times faster doing it. Just do it. Like, seriously, just do it. And you will learn 100 times, 1,000 times faster. You will run into things that you were not expecting. You will have to learn things you didn't even conceptualize that you will have to learn, just in terms of just being a business owner, like, accounting, taxes, all those things that you just, insurance, that's the one I hate. But, so there's all that stuff that you're going to learn, but you're not going to learn it by reading a book. You're just going to have to do stuff, and you'll get forced into it. I say know what you're getting yourself into. Like, this is not for the faint of heart. It is going to be a longer haul than you expect. And you are going to face a lot of things that you were not expecting to, and it's going to be difficult, but it's absolutely worth it. Like, that's the one thing you realize once you've done it a few times is it's doable. And even if like, every founder fails, every founder fails. You are going to fail at a lot of different things. Hopefully not your first enterprise, like the whole company won't fail, but there are going to be things about it that will fail, and you just fail quick, learn, move on. There have been businesses that I've started that failed. So be it. Move on. Get another idea. Start a new one. And just be resilient like that.
Nice. I like it. And then the last question is, what is the best way for our viewers to get in touch with you if they wish?
Best way for viewers to get in touch with me, I would definitely say connect with me on LinkedIn. I will accept almost anybody. I have a little bit of a filter, because I try to avoid the people who are LinkedIning me just to sell me something. So I filter a little bit, but not much. But definitely send me a request on LinkedIn, or straight up email me. My email address is very simple. It's Matt, MATT, @bundlar.com. That's my email address. If you want to reach out to me, if you reach out to me via email and it's not a sales message, I will generally get back to you. And I'm always, I'm an entrepreneurial advisor for Loyola University, for Illinois Institute of Technology. There's an organization in Chicago called 1871, which is Chicago's technology incubator. I'm a mentor and a member there. So I am always very happy to help entrepreneurs. If you reach out to me and you have a legit question and a legit, something you're looking for, I will respond. Obviously, it might take some time because I'm pretty busy, but I will get back to you.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I wish I could ask you several more questions, because
I got
this
little
has
bit
been a lot of fun.
I know you're running. If you got another fun one, I'll go for it. Otherwise, we can end it here and maybe do another one later.
Well, that sounds like fun too, because I think we could probably do a whole other show with the stuff that we could go over. But you have a really great day.
Excellent. You too.
All right,
Thank you
thanks,
very
buddy.
much.